I'm amazed that I had the opportunity to be on the stage with you guys. I mean, watching your work, learning about it. We actually have a segment called Community MVP. And I've had the opportunity to hear everyone's story and what they're doing. So you hear about different change makers here in Baltimore, the work they're putting in. So I know this, but why was it important for you and your mission in this city specifically? And why is it important for you to continue to live? Y'all devote your lives to it. It's not just a job. And in most cases, no one's being paid for even the work that they're doing. But why is it important for you and people like you at the grassroots level, Black-led organizations, why is it important for you to be doing your job and your mission?
That's a great question. So I'm asked this a lot, and I'm always a little hesitant to give my answer because it might sound a little bit cheesy, but the answer is it's a matter of survival.
That's a real answer.
Okay. And so I'm from New York originally. Don't hold it against me. And I did not study real estate development. I did not know I was going to go into real estate development. I only got into housing work because my neighborhood began to be gentrified and my community members began to be pushed out. And I kind of just became, this was also around the time that Trayvon Martin was murdered. So I just graduated college. I was kind of going through a radical moment. And I just kind of got civically engaged and involved, trying to basically call the developer to the table, advocate for affordable housing, and making sure that we were hiring people locally to build these big luxury apartment buildings and hiring returning citizens and paying them a living wage. And we fought that battle for 6 years and pretty much got steamrolled by the developer. And it made me realize that historically Black communities for so long are told that they're unvaluable or invaluable, and that there's no worth and you're never there's nothing here. And then suddenly you get some developers that land on you and push you out and make your community too expensive to live in. So for me, it was a matter of survival because I knew that what happened in my community in New York would continue to happen. It had already been happening and it would continue to happen. And so I really started Parity as an effort to try to get ahead of gentrification in other historically Black neighborhoods. And while New York was sadly gone, I looked across the country to see what other predominantly Black communities still had a fighting chance. And I fell in love with Baltimore. There's just the warmth there is just I feel like I found my tribe, I found my people, my family. So that's why I do what I do, and that's why I'm wholeheartedly dedicated to Baltimore.
Tendea family isn't our grandparents or our aunties and our uncles. This is a young, youth-led movement that's putting in the work now. Why is that so important to you?
I think it's important because I was born and raised in down the hill, which is McElderly Park on Monument Street, on a block called Monument and Glover. And when I went to William Packer Elementary School and I was in my neighborhood, what everybody agreed on was that it was nothing in this neighborhood and that we should get far, far away. The neighbors agreed, the teachers agreed, so we was always in this preparation of, man, get out the hood. That's the goal. The goal is always to get out the hood. And I never fully accepted that. And it was when I encountered teachers like Mr. Scott in middle school and things like that, that began to teach me my history and what has been done for us in the past, that I realized that, things can change because we got out of a lot of worse situations than this. And so what's important for me is the recognition that we all have a common duty. So you said survive, and for me it's duty. I don't really have a choice because I'm duty bound because of what was done for me before, but also those little people that helped Lord Lodge to get where he at today, that's still on Glover and Monument. So for me it's important because in Baltimore City, our kids is not being told enough that they have a duty. And so we focus on them and we know they got potential and we help them get through school, to get through college, but we're pushing into them, leave the hood, leave Baltimore. And so we send our heroes right out the community and some of them never come back. And so for me, it was important for the people from down the hill to see and the people from my neighborhood to see that here's a person that not only came back, but I brought other people that didn't even from this community. We got people that's in Tendea that's from Philly. We got people that's in Tendea from New York that said, I'm going to plant my flag in Baltimore City, and I'm not going to plant my flag in Towson or Roland Park, but I'm going to commit myself to living in Down the Hill. And we're going to commit ourselves to building up Down the Hill from the inside, because what I also realized was that no 1 foot in and 1 foot out approach to this problem was going to change anything. If you just sit from out the hood and you go and do your little thing, a couple days, that ain't going to do something. It's a Band-Aid on the gunshot wound. So we needed some people that was going to put their feet in and really be committed, day in, day out, 24/7, even if they die, because that's the things that push things forward on a cultural, communal, social level. That's the things that push things forward in those blocks, in those neighborhoods. So, and lastly, what I would say is that young people have always done that. Young people have always done that. And when you see with the Black Power era, with Stokely Carmichael and Hugh P. Newton and Bobby Seale, when you see with the Civil Rights Movement, the Freedom Riders, young people have always done that. And so it's a tradition of young people standing on the front lines, being willing to do whatever it takes to change the community. And I was really just honored to be a part of that history and that story, and wanted to be that more than anything when I started learning about Black history.
What about the arts? Right, so many different ways that I heard them say putting a Band-Aid on a wound, but with the arts, it's such a creative way to express yourself, to heal in so many different ways. Why is it so important for you to dive into that space?
I think it's important for me, one, because art was the way that it saved my life. I was able to read books to get away from reality, listen to music, do certain things, write poetry. And so knowing that that was a survival mechanism, back to survival, and knowing that there's youth in Baltimore and across the country, especially in school systems that don't have a lot of funding, that don't have access to certain types of art. And if they have access to art, it's usually like cookie cutter art. So they don't have a lot of cultural slant to it. It's not deep. They don't have a lot of, we call them learning leaders that look like them, that are from their neighborhood, to be able to even give them context inside some of the art that they're the practitioners for. So it's just really important for me to make sure that those artists who were in the city were able to come back inside of the schools to then be able to teach their art and their craft. Also, if you don't have access to art, you don't know if you like certain things. You don't know if you're a poet. You don't know if you're a painter. You don't know any of these things. And even you don't even know if you like it. Whether or not it becomes a career for you, it might be an outlet for you to have. Another reason why Creative Nomads has been so important to me is professional artists. There's not a lot of celebration of a lot of people who are from Baltimore. You have Dante Winslow, who has done some things for the Oscars, the Super Bowl, on tour with Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z. Most of the people, if you walk up to them, have no idea who he is. And he's classically trained at Peabody. You have Marette Brown Clark, who is an award-winning gospel artist who is here in the Baltimore area, and you don't know who she is if she was to walk in here. And that is a shame, because we don't celebrate them. Ultra Nate, she gets gigs in Ibiza, and she's a dance music artist, DJ. She holds parties in Baltimore, but people don't know that. And so those skills that they have, whether it is the horns from Dante Winslow and being able to do master classes with kids who are in the band here, those opportunities are being lost because nobody is celebrating the arts and thinking of them as viable ways to make money, or to even just improve the community. And we all, well, maybe we don't all know, but we know at Creative Nomads that arts is impactful when it comes to safety in the community, when it comes to community building, which also leads to safety, because if you know people, then it's harder for you to harm them. One of our greatest things is drumming with dads. So we have dads from the neighborhood who are drumming on djembes with their kids, meeting each other, learning with each other, talking about fatherhood, learning the djembe, and learning something new, being vulnerable in front of their kids, with other men, and having those conversations. So art is so powerful when it comes to safety, when it comes to just creativity, but also just self-discovery too.
almost everyone that has sense loves the Ravens, right? And you're able to gather support from black, white, blue, it doesn't matter. But I've been able to see firsthand, which is why, honestly, we're inspired to create the community MVP, is that it doesn't always look the same for everyone else. And there are people that are real heroes in Baltimore City that aren't getting the same support simply because it may not be on TV or sports or whatnot. And I thought it was important for everyone to really kind of get their roses, right? So for you guys here, being that we are here raising money, fundraising, letting everyone know about black organizations that are underfunded, what have been some challenges for you and your organization in terms of reaching out and really reaching that next level? And what would you say to someone that may be listening right now as to why they should support your organization?
So for me, I'm trying this new thing. Before I complain, I'm gonna celebrate some wins. For us, we just got approved for $1.25 million in ARPA funds. Right. Keep the cross on me. We also are really I'm also giving my flowers to orgs too. I like seeing Danielle here. I think that's a good example of organizations and funders talk about, how do you meet black people at the table, but then to see leadership be a black person from Baltimore, that's a black woman, that changed the landscape. So I would shout out to One Collectively is a good example of how you fundraise, crowdsource. Also OSI, I can go on. I think the largest problem with the fundraising landscape for us is until 2021, the only money we had locally was $10,000 from an Elevation Award grant, right? And nobody knew that. So that's why I started with the good story to then take people back. I put all of my own money in B360 because, this crazy idea of dirt bikes and STEM, when you talk about the narrative change, people was like, that's not gonna work, that's crazy, right? If you was in the hood, you got it because you already saw people fixing bikes. People repairing bikes is a natural correlation. But the problem was trying to translate that to funders who don't speak my language and who didn't want to, so I stopped asking. We are a social enterprise with a hybrid model for that reason. So we have a for-profit side and non-profit side. So when you donate, it goes to our programming, but we sell our services and I own our curriculum, right? So that's how I talked about, for me, it went from not thinking about survival, because that's the non-profit complex. Sustaining and thriving is thinking about how does your own business make money and how do you take it to another level. And so until, like I said, 2021, that was the largest grant we got. And then I really did a lot of on the ground bootstrapping, and then making sure that we told our own story. And so one of my favorite stories to share now is somebody yesterday, they see me present at Elevation Awards back in 2016. She just got our idea yesterday, right? It finally was a light bulb. After, 6 years? And I think that's typical of Baltimore, that as a person from this city, we get looked over. We are told that our ideas can't make it, we don't matter. And then it takes people 6 years plus on a good day. Even with as much media as we get, as much storytelling, we are the diversion program for the whole city of Baltimore. I was on the advisory for the mayor of Baltimore City, and people question me about what I know to be true, right? So I can advise the mayor, but I can't lead my own org. And so that is my issue with fundraising as a whole for black people, specifically black women, is we're overlooked, we're underestimated. I don't need no more awards. If it's not checks, I don't want it. And my advice to everybody is make sure your business, a nonprofit is a business, it can make money. Don't depend on foundations, because by the time they catch on to your idea, they already missed their mark, and they still missing our mark. Going back to the 1.25, I'm excited for it, but when we're looking at Rashfield, when we're looking at other capital campaigns, they raising $13 million.
Right.
I got 1.125. So also, it's not equitable just yet. So I'm excited for our win, but we got more work to do.